can't feel my face. Coffee spilling all over the place. Forgot the sticks, we're turning around. Another weekend in some hockey town. With a pucked up parents, frozen toes, big hearts, bad luck. With a pucked up parents, one more tourney, one more puck. We're broke, we're loud, we love this grind. Cause our kid just scored and we lost our minds.
Greetings and welcome to Pucked Up Parents. We are at episode 3 of season 2. I'm surprised we didn't get canceled in season 1, but here we are in season 2. I'm Michael, host of Pucked Up Parents. With me as always is my lovely wife and now parent to a single child only home. Angela, how you doing?
Well, we didn't cancel ourselves, so that's good news.
That's true.
And yes, we did ship our oldest off. He is now living in the dorm. So we are officially in year 13 of being hockey parents. So 13 years ago, we were starting out as novice hockey parents who knew absolutely nothing about the sport and have learned a lot in the last 13 years and are still learning every day. So we're here to share all of that experience and what we're still learning with you. So maybe you don't have as big of a curve as we did.
We fumbled, we bumbled, we made our way from our son's age 5 of first picking up a hockey stick to right now he's practicing at the collegiate level, at the ACHA collegiate level with the University of Louisville Cardinals. So new stories, new adventures upcoming. And we also have a 12-year-old who plays 12U AA hockey. So yay us, we somehow managed to raise 2 hockey players despite not either of us being any hockey background in any of our lives.
That's right, that's the reason I came up with this concept and this idea. I didn't find any hockey podcast out there that were talking specifically about the parent experience and specifically about not having a hockey background. Most of the podcasts talk about plays and practice strategies and those kinds of things. Yeah, we don't know anything about that.
Yeah, so don't ask us our coaching techniques or our favorite drills because I'm going to stare at you with a blank look on my face and try to change the subject. As we do every week, and this is going to start picking up, we talk about how hockey affected our lives. If you're a youth hockey parent, you know somehow, some way, even when it's not hockey season, the sport of hockey is in your life with its head around the corner, tapping you on the shoulder saying, hey, don't forget about me because this is going on. Angela, what happened with us last week in hockey?
Our youngest was finishing up summer roller hockey. And as you mentioned earlier, our oldest got shipped off to college in the dorm and is currently practicing with that new college team.
Also, our 12U, the schedule's out. It's falling into place. We're getting games. We're checking our dates on the calendar. We're getting stuff ready. Angela, the hell with that app. I can't figure it out. But we got a new app. It's a new one. I've not ever used it. You're laughing at me.
New team app.
It's a new team app. I can't figure the damn thing out. I wasn't invited to the party, I guess, or something. So I'm going to rely on you to manage that in our lives once again.
Yeah, I'll carry that load. Don't worry.
And that'll lead us into a recap of the last week's episode. What did we talk about last week?
We talked about prepping for the season, and we talked about, in the episode, we talked about figuring out the app. So I'm glad you sort of took your own advice, but managed to get frustrated and give up. So,
well, I also took your advice. You were tech savvy enough to link the app, the team app, with our family Google Calendar, so all the dates are there for me in our family calendar. Good enough for me.
Not good enough for you because then you don't get the messages while you're traveling with the team.
That's good. I got to know that they stopped off at Applebee's on exit 130 and had dinner that I really didn't care about. So anyway, let's get into today's topic. Angela, I was inspired on this topic. You want to know my inspiration about this? It just hit me this morning as I was listening to a sports talk radio show, Cavino and Rich. Shout out to my close personal friends, Steve Cavino and Rich Davis. The Seattle Mariners were beat by the Milwaukee Brewers last night, 22-0. So,
holy cow.
22-0 in baseball. So that led me into today's topic, which is getting your ass kicked and giving the ass kicking. So Angela,
all right.
What do you think? How do we want to cover this?
I mean, it's a lot. It's going to happen. In your youth hockey journey, there's going to be a team that you could be on the same team in 1 week, be the ass kicker, and the next week get the ass kicking. So yeah, I think we just jump into it. Which one do we want to talk about first?
Well, so let's talk about let's see, what the puck am I doing? I'm a youth hockey parent, Angela, and my kid's playing a sport, any sport this occurs, but let's talk specifically about hockey. Let's talk about let's start off negative. Let's get that over with. The bad news out first. Your kid's team getting their ass handed to them on a silver platter. And by the way, parents, if you're listening to this podcast in your car, we're probably going to say ass quite a bit. We apologize for that in advance, but you can't justify or clearly define a lopsided victory without saying it was an ass kicking. Angela, let's talk about those games where, man, it just didn't work for us. And holy cow, that scoreboard looks like they scored 2 touchdowns against us.
Yeah, it's never fun. At the beginning of the game, you're excited, you're cheering, let's go, puck drops, and next thing you know, the other team scores. You're like, oh man, that was quick. Hey, we'll get that one back, don't worry. And then next puck drop, a few minutes later, there's another score. Your team just can't get it together. And it becomes a downward spiral. And the other team just keeps scoring. Your team can't get it together for whatever reason. It's tough to watch. It's hard to watch.
It's tough to watch too. And the way you describe it, yes. I mean, this can happen multiple ways. It can be the first period, you're down 5 goals in a game, or you could play competitively for a period and a half, and then the wheels just fall off. So it's whatever your team's doing out there and how the other team looks. It's a downward spiral. And as parents, it's almost you're going through, what is that? Denial, anger, acceptance. What is that called? The psychology type thing.
Yeah, like the steps
of acceptance. Of acceptance.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm trying to think back to my college classes now. The stages of acceptance. You get there, like Angel said, the kids are out warming up. You just drove a few hundred miles and you don't know anything about this team. But if you're Angela, you probably did some background checks, my hockey rankings, etc. You might have asked in the lobby, hey, what do we know about this team from Pittsburgh? What do we know about them? Not a lot. The game starts or even before the game starts. Angela, are you looking at the other players when they're practicing and you're judging how they're out there skating, how they look, what their size is? Are you judging that and trying to make a determination of how this game is going to go?
I don't typically watch their skill because I just don't have that ability, but I think there's definitely, with the younger kids, you're looking at the other team and going, man, they're way bigger than us. You're looking at that kind of thing before the game. I think sometimes you can kind of get some insight from my hockey rankings, or maybe they played another team you've played, things along those lines. But sometimes you're at a tournament and then you just show up and you've got this team that you're playing against and you know nothing about them, and your team, maybe you just drove in that day, the kids are tired, got the car legs, and the wheels just fall off from the beginning.
Angela and I, of course, we have 2 kids and before college, so we were a lot of divide and conquer with Angela and I. She'd go to one game, I'd go to a tournament out of town or something. And when situations like this happen, one of our kids' teams are getting ass kicked. And Angela, what's the first thing we do? We're pulling out the phone and texting each other. And your words are, it's getting ugly.
Yes.
I get the 3 dots and I'm like, she's saying it's getting ugly, but for who? Our team, the other team is ugly. So I'm waiting for that. Is this conversation going to go in a downturn negative, or is it going to be super positive? And if it's a negative, it's a lot of texting back and forth between you and I. And even I do the same thing. It's getting ugly. And then I'm like, we just gave up another one. We blew the defense. They got to pull the goalie. It is a thing that we communicate back and forth. And I think I don't know what's the word for it. It's therapeutic to discuss it via text on the phone as you watch the game with your spouse. That way you have somebody to vent to and you don't project it out at the arena.
Yeah, and that's kind of leads me into the next thing that I want to talk about is watching your team and watching your players' emotions. And then I think we'll get into some of the parent emotions that come along with that. And a lot of times when you're watching the team and maybe they've gotten scored on 3 or 4 times in a row real quick, and you can almost watch the emotions of the team and see which players are kind of giving up, who's still skating hard. You can kind of see where they're feeling during that game. I know our oldest, when he was younger, if he was having a rough game, I could literally see how he was holding himself while he was skating, whether he was frustrated, just having a rough game. So it's interesting to start watching that.
The shoulders start to droop.
Yep.
Head is pitched downward. The skating in between plays is a little slower to get to the line, a little slower to get to the puck drop. You can tell in their body language. Some kids are a little more resilient than others. Our son, speaking of Sam and Henry, both of our kids, a little resilient. They'll take an ass kicking, but every once in a while you can see it does get to them, and rightfully so, it should in some scenarios.
Yeah, and I think it becomes the frustration too of man, we just can't get it together today, those kinds of things. So it's interesting to watch your own player to see how their reactions are, because that really helps you kind of later on down the road after the game when you start to talk about it or ask their feelings and kind of get into more of that sports psychology piece of it.
And there is instances where the acceptance comes in. They're accepting they're getting the ass kicking. Sam, I'll share a story about our oldest. He was playing a teenager, I don't know, 12, 13 years old. They were playing against an elite team. I can't remember. It was up north somewhere. And they were getting their asses kicked badly. And one of the kids from the other team skates over to Sam and goes, "Man, you guys are terrible. You guys suck." And Sam looks at the kid and says, "You're the only one on the team that hasn't scored yet," which irritated the other kid, got a little shove, a little penalty box action. So Sam didn't lose his spirit. His mouth was still sarcastic, still running, and he was still chirping out there despite the score.
Yeah, and sometimes they kind of accept that. And we've seen this sometimes on those summer teams where you throw together a bunch of kids and you think they're going to play at a double A or triple A level on this in the summer. And they really end up, they're really more of a single A team, and they're playing in this tournament and they're just getting their butts kicked. And sometimes
they've never played together before.
They've never played together before, and it's just a shit show. And sometimes the kids will just be like, "Oh, yep, this is kind of a throwaway. Let me just go out here and skate and try to make this as much fun as I can."
And then I think as they get older too, I've seen this, and it was in Shoresy. They were getting whipped, and they're like, "All right, boys, time to give them the lumber." And basically, they went out there and just lit up guys. It turned into violence. And that happens too, not just for the fun of it, just to lay people out, but
the frustration.
Yeah, the frustration. Kids get irritated. This is where you get your broken sticks. This is where those handshake lines at the end of the game get a little heated. The coaches get heated. I don't know if you want to go into coaches, but it's where the coaches are saying, "All right, you're up 8 or 9 goals on us. Relax. Let's chill out a little bit here and not keep scoring or keep shooting."
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I do want to talk a little bit about the coaches and paying attention to how the coaches are handling it. On the side where you're getting your butts kicked, how are the coaches handling that? How are they talking to the players on the team? What are they telling the players? Are the coaches themselves getting frustrated? What's the source of that frustration? Is the source of the frustration that the kids aren't trying? Or is the source of the frustration that there's just the wheels fell off and everything's kind of broken down?
Well, and there's also, like I alluded to, the sense of the frustration of the coach that, yes, the other team is better than you. You've accepted that. However, the other team's not taking the foot off the pedal. They're still after it, and that angers a coach. Coaches get angry. It's all over social media. It's all over YouTube. Any sport you see, like Lou Piniella throwing the base, or these basketball players, or Bob Knight throwing the chair. Same thing with hockey coaches. They get irritated and get frustrated, and it's way more sensitive when you're coaching young kids to show those true emotions, because you're trying to set an example for the kids.
Right. So I think that's something to be aware of as a parent, to watch how your coaches handle these types of situations. It's just good for you to know. It's good information. And again, it's that conversation after the game, which we're going to get to in a bit. But you as the parent in the stands, how do you manage that frustration?
Real quick before we get to that, remind me, I don't know what level this is. I don't pay attention to it enough, but when you're getting that ass kicking and it's like 8 or 9-0, and they stop putting the score up on the board unless you score a certain amount to get within a certain amount from the winning team. What is that? Is it 8, or is that a rule in overall hockey, or is it just at certain levels? What is that?
It's at least from my knowledge, it's dependent on the league or the tournament. So most of the time, we've talked about this in one of our tournament episodes, that the tournaments have specific rules. So a lot of times, if a team goes up by 6, I think it's usually 6 or 8, they will stop adding those points or those goals to the scoreboard. It can also trigger a running clock. And typically that's when a team is up by 6 or 8, but it's again dependent on the league or the tournament or whatever those specific rules are. I don't know what, like, if the NHL has a quote unquote mercy rule. I don't know about college either. But I do know youth hockey does have essentially a mercy rule, and it is not putting those additional goals on the scoreboard and starting a running clock at a certain point.
All right, Angela, I'm a hockey dad. I'm on the glass. My hat's on backwards. I just drove 150 miles. My kids are going to the NHL. We're getting our ass kicked. How do I deal with this? Help me out. I need some psychiatry. I need some psychological help in dealing with my kid getting whipped.
Well, first off, see your therapist.
I'm at the rink. There's no therapist. Well, therapists make a lot of money. Hockey's expensive. There's probably a therapist at the rink.
Yeah, there might be a therapist in the stands, so maybe go talk to a therapist. But
my therapist is in my cooler next to me. My cool Bud Light.
Yeah, so you need to see a therapist for that too. But I think just in general, as parents, we're going to have frustrations, but you have to kind of monitor those frustrations and don't show your kids your frustration and manage your anger. Yeah, you're going to be upset. Getting your butt kicked is never fun. But you've got to show some empathy towards your kid, and you've got to show some patience towards the team and how things are going, because you getting all riled up over this situation is not going to make anything better. You continuing to scream from the stands or critiquing your player or other players, critiquing the goalie is not going to help. You've got to still be encouraging. Hey, come on, let's skate hard. Let's keep your head up. Those kinds of things are what we need to be doing as parents.
It's like Tom Petty said, some days are diamonds, some days are rocks. Same thing with these games. It's if your kid's consistently on a losing team, I think it gets a little bit easier every time. I don't want to say losing's ever easy, but I think if you know your kid's team suck. I played on a softball team as a little kid, and we were awful. We got beat every game, and if we scored a run, it was like we just won the game 7 of the series. And I think we won one game in the season, and holy cow, we were hoisting each other on each other's shoulders and celebrating. But these one-off, and it seems like that's what we've kind of settled into with both of our boys' hockey. It's not that they're on a bad team. It's not that they're on an amazing team. It's kind of down the middle. One week, like Angela said, we're getting our ass kicked. The next week, we're delivering an ass kicking. So as a parent, it's difficult to deal with because you don't know what type of emotional roller coaster you're about to head into as you go to these games. For me, it's walking around. I walk around a lot. I keep my mouth shut. I'm not screaming at the kids, not screaming at the coaches. What are you doing? Why are you making this decision? Why is my kid not on the ice? You just roll with the punches. It's what you have to do.
Yeah, and we've talked before about the team, and the goal of most teams is to play that 50-50 season, have a 500 record at the end of the season. You're winning games, you're losing games, but you want your games to be close. So when you are in the situation where you're getting your butt kicked, it's not an everyday thing. But if you do happen to be on that team, like your softball team that gets their butt kicked every time, you've got to redefine your wins. So instead of winning the game, hey, you scored a goal. We got the play down. We made 3 passes before we got the shot off. Little Johnny got a breakaway. You've got to kind of redefine your wins and look at the good that happens during the game, even if you're on a losing team.
So let's talk about that. I've got some positives written down, and we've done this to justify a lopsided loss. I think there was a game where Henry played. It was a team against Canada, and we knew coming in that we were going to get destroyed by this team. And Henry's team held out for a period and a half, 2 periods. It was a tied game, and then the wheels came off. But it was like, man, we really showed that team something for 2 periods. We'd like another shot at them. Kind of like the Rocky, Rocky movie.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Apollo Creed in the first movie. Of course, they tied in the first movie, and then he came back and won. It was the same way where I was like, wow, man, you punched them in the face. They took notice and had to turn on the Jets in the 3rd period just to put you guys away. So you take that as a positive. You're like in a tournament. Angela, great example of the tournaments. We talked about getting beat really bad. And what are you doing at the end of that tournament? You're trying to see who won the tournament. Oh, man, that team that beat us 12-0, they wound up winning it all. So, hey, we played okay against the overall champion.
Right. Yeah, again, that goes back to redefining that win. And sometimes you have to dig a little deeper to find those positives, but there's usually going to be a positive somewhere.
Yeah. So a couple of negatives. What gets me on some of these is the cockiness of kids going in. And our 18-year-old's pretty good at this. It's like, yeah, we play so-and-so tonight. We're going to win. I may score a couple. And what happens? They get their butts kicked. The cockiness, underestimating the competition. That's a problem. So you never want to underestimate your competition. And to me, you don't want to jinx with cockiness that you're going to whip a team because then inevitably you turn around and get your butt whipped.
Well, yeah, that's if you're going to be cocky, you've got to back it up. You've got to play your
What's
game
that?
and do your thing.
What's that? Also, they'll write a check your ass can't cash. Ain't that what the word is?
That's a
Hey,
Top Gun
is
Top
it? I
Gun
hate that.
quote. Yes, I know you hate that movie,
I
which
hate
is
Top Gun.
why I am surprised you were quoting that.
How do you feel? You drove 200 miles, you get your butt kicked, let's say 9-1 in a game, and now you got to play that same team again 3 hours later. But I've seen this where this has happened where we've gotten smoked that first game, and then the second game we come back and win. Is the kids figured out the team? They made an adjustment. I don't know what it is, but I've seen them turn it around. But I've also seen where we've lost both in a row.
Yeah, I think it really depends. I mean, sometimes if you're making that 2 hour drive and the kid just got out of the car and now I'm suddenly going to play a hockey game, they've kind of got those car legs and they don't play well the first game and they go eat lunch, hang out for a little bit, regroup, go out on the ice the second time around, and suddenly they play a fantastic game and beat the team that just beat them.
Oh my God! All Henry needed was a beef and cheddar, and he's playing
Ew.
stellar defense and scoring goals now. Shout out to Arby's. Let's talk about some more. Analyze why the game was so lopsided. What are a couple of other reasons why we let me say this. What are a couple of other reasons why we lost the game that us parents can use to justify that loss?
Well, I mean, and that's kind of what you were talking about the game against Canadian team. You got to think about that. Okay, so we've got a bunch of kids from Southern Ohio, Northern Kentucky, Indiana. They didn't grow up on skates. These kids from Canada probably grew up on skates. They're probably going to be better hockey players. So do they have more experience? Are they an older team? They're the top of the bracket of the 12U versus the first year group in 12U. Are they playing up? Is it a younger group of players that are playing up in a higher division? Did your team move from single A to double A? There's a lot of different versions of those questions that I think you just have to kind of think about and not necessarily analyze, but maybe provide some reasoning as to why the game was so lopsided.
We've talked about this in our injury illness episode. 40% of your team has the flu, so now you have a forward playing defense, and vice versa. Or I think we had a parent who said that their kid just stepped in the goalie because the goalies were out. So you never
Right.
know what that other team or your team situation is, and that may be the reason why you just took a beating from it. We've beaten teams that have been a year younger than us. We've been the young team getting destroyed by another team, or they're just having an off day. The kids just for some reason don't want to play today. It's an evenly matched. They've beaten this team before. They've tied with this team before. They've lost by one to this team before. But for some reason today, you're fully stacked. You have your full roster, but they're phoning it in. And that's frustrating to a parent.
Yeah, I think that's the most frustrating situation is when you know your team can compete with the other team and they're just not clicking that day. That's really tough. And we experienced this a couple of times in tournaments and particularly in the high school league where another team will bring in ringers for a tournament or for a game. Maybe they've got some players who are double rostered or play for another team, but they say their team is short and bring in these kids who maybe play at a different level. And suddenly you're getting your butt kicked by a team that you didn't think you were going to get your butt kicked by, but suddenly they have 4 or 5 new players.
Man, that teenager on that team looks oddly like Sidney Crosby. What's going on here?
Yeah, I don't know about that.
All right, so just to summarize, you're going to get your butt kicked. It's going to happen. Take it. It's a part of life. Kids are resilient. Angela, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
How do you deal post game?
Post game, I think you say you tried hard, things just didn't work out. What's for lunch? Don't dwell on it. Don't drag it through the mud. The kids know it was a bad game. If they want to talk about it, talk about it. If they don't want to talk about it, don't rehash it.
And that's we can't stress this enough. Be reactive. Don't push it. Don't immediately dive into it. Some kids, especially as they get teenagers, they want to sulk or mope or not say anything. And then once you get in the car for the ride home, they'll start to open up, and then they'll open up to you. Instead of you pulling the information out of them, let them start the conversation. And then you can go and asking, hey, what'd you do right? What'd you do wrong? What did the coach say? Just let them lead the conversation and just be there for their support.
And I do want to mention too, one of the things our goalie mom friend Shauna has said many times is, especially with goalies, they have to have a short memory. Don't dwell on the last game. It happened, the goal went in, you got beat, whatever the case is, that was in the past, let's move on. I think that's a great piece of advice for this situation as well.
I can't tell you how often I see parents post on these hockey Facebook pages of their kid getting bullied because they lost a game. Mainly goalie kids, where the other kids are just trashing them for missing a goal or missing something. And the answer is always the same for me. It's like the goalie's the last line of defense. The team messed up, but it's the hardest position out there. It's the last line of defense, and it's the person who gets the finger pointed to them if they lose the game. Some of our favorite pictures coming out of our oldest son's career are his sympathetic hugs to the goalie when they had tough losses. It breaks your heart, but it is important for your kid to support their teammates, even in beatdowns like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, again, just don't drag it, don't rehash it, just move on, which I think is what we should do now.
Let's go. Are we there yet? And holy shit, now we won.
We're on the flip side.
We're on the flip side. I'm getting a text from Angela that says, it's getting ugly out here. Winky face. So, it's good news. We're winning.
We're up.
We're up. We're up quite a bit. The game just started. Angela, what do you got for this?
Yeah, this is one of those situations, like we said, you're on the flip side. Your team is clicking and the other team cannot catch a break. But we know how it feels when you can't catch a break. So how are your players adjusting? What are they doing? What are you seeing out on the ice when your team goes up 6, 7, 8 goals?
The team goes up 6, 7, 8 goals, and now you're kind of watching for what the kids are doing. They've played perfectly. The passes are tight, crisp. They've made some amazing shots. The defense is locked in. You're up by 6 or 7 goals. Now it's like, okay, what adjustments are going to, because Angela, I don't know about you. I start to empathize with the other team. I'm like, all right, mercy. Let's show some mercy here. Mercy, William Wallace, if you ever seen Braveheart. Mercy. Let's take off the gas a little bit. I don't know. As a coach, you see the coaches make adjustments, and some of them are wild. So what do you see out there when they make these adjustments? What are we doing differently to kind of ease back on the beatdown?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's important. We talked earlier about the mercy rules, and it's really dependent on the league or the tournament. But a lot of times you'll see that those additional goals don't show up on the scoreboard. They're going to show up on the score sheet, but they're not going to show up in lights on the scoreboard. We also talked about the running clock. I think that's a good way to kind of let this game end. Let's get it over with. Mercy, mercy, mercy. But I think there's other ways that players and coaches make some adjustments. We've seen a lot of times coaches will say, hey guys, you're playing great, but I don't want anybody to take a shot unless you've done at least 3 passes in your offensive zone, because that forces our players to pass the puck, make clean passes before they're taking that shot. And it also gives that other team a little bit more time and opportunity to maybe pick off a pass and get something going for themselves. So I think that's at least one of the most frequent ways I've seen coaches and players make adjustments.
Well, even the coaches in that part, would you say they're kind of using the rest of this game as a training opportunity, more as a practice at this point? Kind of run some new plays. The passing, of course, teaches them how to pass. So to me, that's what they're doing. All right, now it's a scrimmage. Pass, Henry. I want you to pass 2 times before you take a shot. So they're being challenged to go out there and do something. Or we've talked about this. Now they're switching positions. Let's let the guy who plays defense, let's let him play forward, see if he can score some goals. Granted, he'll never play in a competitive game in that position, but there is an opportunity there for your kids to switch positions to see how they do as a defenseman, as a forward, as a winger. Just because you're up by so much, it's no different than baseball. When you see those, they're getting their butts kicked, and they put a position player out there to pitch.
Right, and I do want to clarify. It's not that your kid will never switch positions if they start out as a defenseman versus a forward or whatever. But I think it just gives the coaches and the players an opportunity to switch things up a little bit and give some players some actual time on the ice in a different position, maybe in a little less high pressure situation. So I think that's a way that coaches and players can create more challenge when you're in that situation of being up by too many goals.
Didn't Sam get benched last year because he was in a game where there was supposed to be 3 passes or something, and he didn't do it. Like, he thought
Yeah, I think so. He didn't know how to count.
Yeah.
He thought there had been 3 passes and he took the shot.
All right. I had to do a quick edit there for any of our listeners because my son is outside right now doing his 10,000 puck challenge last second. So all I hear are pucks out there hitting. So I had to go shut the rest of the doors and pause the show for a bit. So, Angela, how can we as parents be, you don't say sore winners. What do you say? What's that phrase? Sore winners, gracious winners.
Gracious winners? I think gracious winners is
that
a
word?
good one.
Good sport.
Yeah, good sport, a gracious winner,
right,
something along those lines.
How can we as parents be good sports when our kid's laying a beat down on the opposite team?
We talked earlier, if your team's getting beat, you want to dial back that yelling from the stands. So this is a situation where you're going to dial back that cheering from the stands. Cheer for the goals, but maybe not celebrate like you just won the Stanley Cup.
Even cheering the goal, the 10th or 11th goal, if you're still woo cheering it on and ringing your stupid cowbell.
Yeah, that's where you do like a little golf clap. Hey, that's good job, team. But yeah, I think you have to dial that back and don't ever celebrate the other team's mistakes. I think that's a really clear cut. We can draw that line in the sand.
Have you ever cheered against the goal? You're like, stop, please stop. For your own team. Have you ever been like, God, stop shooting?
Let one go in.
Again, this is where your empathy comes in. Stop shooting on that poor goalie. Henry, no, don't shoot.
Right. And then obviously cheer for the goalie when they do make a great save. I think that's always a good thing to do. That other team, when they're getting their butts beat and that goalie makes a fantastic save, of course, cheer for them. Another line in the sand, don't ever mock the score or make jokes or chirp at the other team when you're in this kind of situation.
Right, because if you are the parent whose kid's getting their ass kicked, you either A, accepted that you got the beating, or B, you're getting angry. And this is where it gets heated. People still chirp, people still yell. You're poking the bee's nest if you're pointing to the scoreboard or yelling at their kids, or to Angela's point, you're up 12-0 and you just cheered that 13th goal like you won the Stanley Cup. You're only adding fuel to the fire of some parents that are angry that your kids are beating them that bad.
You may end up a viral video on YouTube.
Yeah, you may go viral, and you don't want that to happen.
Yeah,
and you may be banished from the rink, and you're damaging your kids' standing in the organization, so don't do that. This one always gets me, the lobby, the post-game lobby, and I think it's shameful. I've been on the beatdown end, and Henry's coming out, or Sam's coming out. They're all dejected. They're frustrated because they lost that bad. Here comes the other team's kid player out. He's bragging about scoring 4 goals. Understandably so. It's a little kid. Kids are going to do that. And the parents are just like, again, they won a championship. They won the Stanley Cup, or saying that team sucked. That goalie couldn't stop anything. Watch your mouth out in the lobby because you don't know who's around you. You had a little bit of safety when you were on the bleachers. You were separated. You shouldn't have been sitting next to each other. But out in that lobby, man, it could be the Thunderdome. You're all out there together. You say something wrong about the wrong player, that parent may be standing right next to you.
Yeah, and I think not necessarily just the parents getting upset or getting in a fight, but I think you can really hurt feelings and not even know it with some of those lobby conversations or celebrations. So especially when it's the situation where your team has just really kicked somebody's rear, just be empathetic of that other team and how they're feeling and how they're going to walk away from that game. You don't want to make it any worse by having some sort of conversation overheard or a major celebration that's probably not needed if it really is a pretty good ass kicking.
I'm sure it was meaningless to this family, but I did say something. It was a team that we beat badly. I mean, we beat 9-0, 10-0. They had no defense, but the goalie took like 40 or 50 shots on goal. And the parents were out there, the goalie was out there, he looked all frustrated, dejected. And I went over and I go, hey man, you made some hellacious stops out there, and you made a lot of stops. From the number of shots that you took, you let a few in, sure, the score was pretty high, but you stopped a ton. And nobody else could have done that. So I'm sure it was meaningless to him, or it was me, showing up because we won, but I was truly impressed by how many goals he scored.
I think that's always a good thing to do, and congratulate the other team who did a good job. Hey, you did a good job. You kept skating and kept fighting. That's always a good thing to do. Recognize good players and good play when you see it, and let the other team know that they keep working hard and maybe it's their day the next day, and they're going to turn that around. And that next game, they're going to be the ones delivering the butt kicking.
All right, Angela, before we get to reflections, a couple of questions for you. You're a coach. When do you dial it back and not go 100%? Do you tell your kids that? You always want your kids to go 100%, but there's got to be a point where you're like, all right, let's chill out and not do as much. Or are you like, just have at it?
Well, I think there's a difference between, you always want to put effort in. You want to go 100%, but there are ways that you dial it back. And that's what we talked about in, hey, team, I want you to pass at least 3 times in your offensive zone before you take a shot. I want you to only take shots from the boards. I don't want you to take any shots from the point. There are different ways you can dial it back without turning it off, I guess, if that makes any sense.
All right. The difference between competing and showing off. There's a fine line there, especially when you're running the score up.
And I think that's where kind of those other situations of you're still competing, you're still skating hard, but you're not, when you get a goal, you're not doing that silly. You're not doing the silly celebrations and running and jumping over your other team. I think that becomes where it's showing off versus, hey, I'm still out here playing hockey. I'm just not celebrating every time I score or do something well.
When you score or as you score, we've seen kids attempt to do the Michigan. If you don't know the Michigan,
Right.
if you're new to hockey, look up the Michigan. It's where you lift the puck and kind of tuck it up in the net.
It's a lacrosse style goal.
Our kid got in trouble once for scoring a goal, shooting through his legs. Coach said, that was awesome. Don't do it again. Because when you do stuff like that, it also puts a target on you. I talked about the kid's frustration. You do a Michigan, you just put a target on yourself. They're gonna retaliate. We talked about cheering for the other, the golf clap when the goalie for the other team makes a good stop. Are you cheering for them when they finally score that first goal, or are you kind of like,
yes,
damn it, they broke up our shutout?
No, I'm cheering for them. Sorry.
Now the golf clap though, you're like,
yeah, like, oh yeah, I mean, no, because I think like I've said this a million times. I'd take a competitive game loss over a lopsided victory any day.
Yeah, Angela, we've had this conversation numerous times post game, even on our text when we divide and conquer. The beatdowns, it's inevitable. Angela's going to call or text me and say, it just wasn't fun to watch. It wasn't enjoyable. Yes,
on either side of the beatdown, whether you're winning or losing.
But even in the victory, we celebrate a victory. It's awesome. It's good for our kid. But you're like, that wasn't fun. It wasn't a fun game to watch. And this is where you're playing up and you're playing downs come into play. You see a lot of people complaining about that, where these teams come out, play down in these tournaments, dominate the tournament and win. But did they really learn anything? And did they have fun?
Right. I think it's about the competition too, and improving the skill of the players. And you're not improving the skill of the players if you're constantly playing against teams that you're beating down on. So that's where my competitiveness comes in. Yeah, I want to win, but I also want a competitive game.
All right, let's get to life moves pretty fast reflections. So we've talked about getting our ass kicked versus kicking another team's ass. That's the roller coaster of parent emotions. You go from the highest of high, oh, we're winning 3-0, we're winning 8-0, to, oh man, we're down 12-0. You're all over the place, but that's part of the lifestyle of being a youth hockey parent, the emotional roller coaster of it all. But even, as Angela said, a large victory doesn't mean your emotions are high. You're kind of bored. Angela, what's your reflections on this?
Yeah, like you said, the big victory, the big butt kicking, and unless it's a team you have beef with or something along those lines, it's not fun. I don't think it's beneficial for either team when it's a blowout on either side. Like I said just a minute ago, I would take a loss in a well-played game any day over a lopsided victory. I think it's just much more beneficial for the kids who are learning the game and playing, and I think they get to be better hockey players when they're playing in those competitive games. Those lopsided victories, they're not really learning anything. Yeah, it's great to have a win. Yeah, it's fun to do some of that silly stuff every once in a while, but it's not improving your abilities as a hockey player or as a team.
And as a parent, it's just you're rubbing salt in the wound. You're kicking a man while he's down. If you're belligerently cheering, being up 12 goals. And then even if you're up like 4 or 5 goals in the third period, midway third period, it's hockey. Anything can happen.
Right.
We've seen games get lost where you're up a substantial amount and they lose in the last 2 minutes. So our lopsided victory secure in those last 5 minutes of the game? 12-0, probably. 6-0, maybe. 4-0, now you're getting a little bit worried. So anything can happen in hockey, but learn to be a good person in loss and in victory. Angela, tip of the week.
We've said this a couple of times throughout this episode, but I think empathy. Think about the players on both sides, on both benches. Don't get roped into any sort of conflicts with the other parents during these lopsided games. It can be easy to do because of that emotional roller coaster you just talked about. You've got those highs and lows. You get frustrated, you get angry. Don't get roped into any sort of conflict. For every winning team, there's a losing team. Understand how that other team feels and treat them the way you would want to be treated if you were in that situation.
And as for your kids, help them through a loss. Let them approach you. Let them lead the conversation. Offer feedback. Don't criticize them. Don't criticize their teammates. Don't criticize their coaches. Just be there. Listen to them. Offer constructive criticism. And on the flip side, tell them to be good, what we say, good sports in a victory. Does a 13th goal need to have a celly behind it? No, it doesn't. Do they need to keep shooting on the goal? Do they need to talk smack when they roll out in the lobby? No, because all you're doing is trashing another team who could probably hear you. And down the road, you're going to face them again, whether it be the same season or who the hell knows what they look like the next season. Because we've seen teams that we've totally destroyed one season, and the very next season, those kids developed all of a sudden, and now we're taking the beatings. So it comes back twofold. So just have empathy and teach your kids how to have empathy. Angela?
Yeah, and I think bottom line is be a gracious winner, be a gracious loser, be a good sport.
Be a good sport. Yep. Angela, get us to our outro.
We appreciate everyone listening. Please follow, subscribe, and share. Leave us a comment or question on whatever platform you're listening on. Click that 5-star review if you can. That helps us get a little bit more exposure. I think we're doing pretty good and reaching a lot of people, but now that we've got hockey season starting, I hope to find a lot more followers out there.
Yeah, the numbers keep climbing. It's impressive. We've enjoyed it. We enjoyed all the small businesses out there that have helped us out. We enjoy all the outreach we've had. Please give us your comments, your concerns, any show topics you want us to cover outside of Angela and I. We're going to not talk about skills or skating or anything like that. Merchandise, top of our page, we have some t-shirts, blankets to cover up with. Get your Pucked Up Parents merchandise. Give us a follow on Instagram, Facebook, and remember, keep your stick on the ice. We are all in this together. Goodbye.
Up before dawn, can't feel my face. Coffee spilling all over the place. Forgot the sticks, we're turning around. Another